Better get started.
All right, we will start with the pledge for anyone wishing to participate. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this meeting to order. This is the Morgantown City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, October 21st. It is 7:11 p.m. and we will have the clerk please call the roll.
Yes, Joe Buganum. Jody Hollingshead. Here. Wheezy Michael.
Here.
Jenny Celine.
Here.
Mark Downs.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Butcher.
Here.
Mayor Trumbull.
Here. Brings us to our approval of minutes. We have October 7th, 2025 special meeting minutes and October 7th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Those were circulated. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, we'll approve by consensus. Yes. Correspondence? No correspondence? Does any member of council have correspondence? Seeing none, tonight we also have two public hearings scheduled. Public hearing A, an ordinance for a commercial lease and operating agreement with the 304 Ventures LLC at the Morgantown Municipal Airport. We will open this public hearing if there's anyone wishing to speak on this item and this item alone.
Can anyone go up there and speak?
This is specifically about an ordinance for a commercial lease and operating agreement with 304 Ventures LLC at the airport.
Oh, I'm sorry, I want to talk about something else.
Okay. The public portion will be soon.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing none, we'll close that public hearing. We will open a public hearing B, an ordinance providing for amendments to Article 1718 of City Code entitled Vacant Structure Code. Anyone wishing to speak on this item?
Good evening, Council. My name is Marty Schamberger. I live at 812 Ridgeway Avenue. In looking at this ordinance, one thing that really stood out to me was the lack of due process. There's no area for the public to have input on these vacant structures. And I think that's something that we should include in our process instead of having it taken away. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing?
Sorry.
Annie Cronin, York, 7th Ward. And I do not mean to disparage anybody when I say that since I began with the Human Rights Commission, which I didn't just say, a lot of people have said to me that city council's in the pocket of the big business and landlords, and I have fought against that tooth and nail because I don't believe that to be true. However, when it comes to the vacant structures and zoning and those sorts of things, there is the appearance that that's what's going on. For instance, C71 Donnelly Street that was up for hearing tonight, it's signed off innocently enough by Paperton Development, which is owned by Harry Petropolis, who has 25 incorporations. And the other person who's lined up for that is March Weston CEO, Mr. Weiser. I think between the two of them, they have enough money to pay for a vacant structure permit. And I know that it says the reason must be stated, it must be good cause on why we're going to waive the fee. And the good cause stated here is that, well, the city's going to demolish it anyway. Why are we paying for that? It seems to me that between the two of them, they come up with money for the permit and the money to take care of this structure. They bought it in 2015. It's only 2025. They've had it 10 years. I don't think it's lessened in quality in those 10 years, maybe a little. But I think that we're giving the waivers away too freely. And I agree with the due process consideration that this is something that happens pretty much behind closed doors as far as the public can tell. And so once again, the appearance of impropriety rears its ugly head. So I would ask that you not be granting waivers to people who can afford it, and that they pay for the demolition themselves, not us, or whatever it is that pays for it. It shouldn't come out of public funds when it's a holding company that's held by another holding company. Means that it's owned by a couple millionaires, although they did not pop up on the Forbes list, so they're not billionaires. Not to say that we put a lien on the property, and thereby they cannot sell the property until they pay our lien of what they owe us, which is fine, but they can also redevelop that property. I don't think I asked last week and was told there's nothing that would prevent them redeveloping it if they're not selling it. We could mess with them on permits, but I don't think that's part of the lien either, that we can mess with them on permits. So what recourse is there for the city if we pay to have these things demolished and taken away, and then they come along with their basket of money and build something new and pretty that's a waterfront development, or pretty close to it, a new office building? What recourse? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on vacant structure code? Close that public hearing. Brings us to unfinished business. We have no items. The next item on the agenda is the public portion, subject to rules established by council, adopted by resolution. Generally, come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 4 minutes to speak on whatever you wish to speak on. No comments of a personal nature are tolerated. We will open this public portion. So the first person on the list to speak is Annie Cronin York.
I spent a good deal of time today preparing for the public portion because of the agenda item for the Morgantown Mosaic Neighborhood Pride and Engagement Initiative. And when I finished working on it, I saw that on the actual statute that's in the packet, that pride has been taken out of the name. So I have no more to say on that unless you'd like the history of pride in Morgantown. Google knew an awful lot about it, knew an awful lot about our human rights laws. I was surprised. I asked, is Morgantown LGBTQ plus friendly? Oh, yes, it is. It's very friendly. It's got several LGBTQ plus friendly ordinances, and it listed them. The conversion therapy, and I mentioned the block party and the pride parade, and wow, all that from is Morgantown, West Virginia, LGBTQ friendly. Then it mentioned all our results on the MEI, the Municipal Equality Index, and how brilliant we were on that. So I'm glad Google knows these things about us. Beside that, International World Food Day was October 16th. I went to an event at I still know it as a soup kitchen, but I'm sure it has a better name than that by now. And there's a presentation about the city's resolution supporting the human right to food. And we were indeed the first city in the nation to have such a resolution supporting food as a human right. Something to be proud of. And in going through other things to prepare for my MEI that will eventually be done. I came across the ADA resolution that was done in 2015, I think. And it was signed off that the city supports, we're going to make things ADA compliant, or inspectors, they're all mentioned. But it doesn't look like an ordinance was ever passed. So just, yes, we support a resolution, it doesn't get anything done. And yelling at code enforcement doesn't get anything done. So if you consider doing an ordinance on ADA compliance, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no one else on the sign-up sheet. Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Trumbull. My name is Glenn Gallagher. I've been a Mon County resident for 43 years. I've recently heard that President Michael Benson of WVU wants to close University Avenue between the Mount Lair and Woodburn Circle. We all know that traffic is very bad in Morgantown, and, you know, if this happens, Beechurst Avenue will be a double nightmare. On August 31st, I wrote a letter to the editor proposing that a walk bridge be built from the mountain layer to Woodburn Circle. Traffic won't have to stop for the students, and students won't have to stop for the traffic. In my letter, I also stated I would partially fund this project if I had the money, but I don't. But, well, thank you for letting me talk, and that's my, you know, thank you for listening to me, and that's my idea. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Schamberger, 812 Ridgeway Avenue, Morgantown, West Virginia. First, I wanted to thank all the people that came out for the No Kings rally. And mostly, I want to thank Morgantown Police Department for being there. It was a very peaceful rally, and I think we made a statement. I think a lot of people were coming together as community, and just to show that we can all stand together and we don't support a king. The other thing I wanted to mention, I notice it in the evenings and during the day, but when I'm coming down Willie Street, there's a beautiful sunset, but it's only blocked by the shoes that are over all the telephone lines, or not telephone lines, power lines. And I know in years past, the city was able to work with the utility companies to get the shoes off the lines and get that cleaned up. The other thing is, it seems to be it's just a citizen reporting only process to get streetlights fixed. I know in my neighborhood it reported 3, and you know, within days those were fixed. I reported to the city manager's office about all the lights, and I haven't been back down there, but on Don Knotts Boulevard we're out, all the street lights. So I don't know if those have come back on. So anyway, in the interest of safety and beauty of our town, I'd like to see those things addressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to speak? Seeing no other members of the public. We have no special committee reports. We do have several items on a consent agenda this evening. I will read each item. If there's any member of council wishing to remove any item from the consent agenda, they may do so before a motion is made. Item A, consideration of approval of second reading of an ordinance for a commercial lease and operating agreement with 304 Ventures LLC at the Morgantown Municipal Airport, first reading October 7th, 2025. Item B, consideration of approval of second reading of an ordinance providing for amendments to Article 1718 of the City Code entitled Vacant Structure Code, first reading October 7th, 2025. Item C, consideration of approval of a resolution to accept a general revenue grant from the State of West Virginia Division of Multimodal Transportation Facilities for the maintenance of the terminal building at the Morgantown Municipal Airport. And item D, approval of bid call 2026-05 salt bid. Is there any member of council wishing to remove any item from the consent agenda?
I'd like to remove B from the consent agenda.
We will remove item B concerning the vacant structure code from the consent agenda. Any others?
I'd like to remove item C.
And we will remove item C from the consent agenda. Okay, that leaves the consent agenda with item A, consideration of approval of second reading of an ordinance for commercial lease and operating agreement with 304 Ventures LLC at the Morgantown Municipal Airport. And item D, approval of bid call 2026-05, the salt bid. Is there a motion to approve that consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Clerk?
Yes. Jody Hollingshead?
Yes.
Weezy Michael?
Yes.
Jenny Celine?
Yes.
Mark Downs?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Butcher?
Yes.
Mayor Trumbull?
Yes, passes 6-0. We will now take up item B, which was technically unfinished business. Consideration of approval of a second reading of an ordinance providing for amendments to Article 1718 of City Code entitled Vacant Structure Code.
Would you like a brief description?
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, as described, an update to Article 1718. This prescribes the city's vacant structure registry, and as part of that, establishes both an appeal process and an exemption process for people whose vacant structures may need to be registered. Appeals are challenges that the structure is not actually vacant within the definition, and those are handled administratively. This ordinance update clarifies what constitutes an appeal versus an exemption. Exemption requests are made to the governing body by state statute. They are requests that admit that a structure is vacant, but state that for some good reason it cannot be occupied for a set period of time. The ordinance revisions as to the exemption procedure were requested by council and by an applicant or multiple applicants for exemption in order to save property owners time when they are making these requests and allow for review of a staff report on the recommendation as to the structure's condition. So previously the code required that the exemption request be brought to council at the next meeting to schedule a future hearing. That step is removed. A staff report is required on all requests, and the applicant and council have an opportunity to review that and decide whether or not they want to hold a hearing in person on that request. These hearings are quasi-adjudicatory proceedings. They are not public meetings within the definition of the Open Governmental Proceedings Act, and I don't believe council has ever held them as public meetings. Just briefly as to due process, because it was mentioned, the constitutional protections entitle people to due process before they are deprived of a property interest at law. Those due process protections, from a constitutional perspective, apply to, in this instance, the people who may be required to register a vacant structure. They're entitled to some process, and we provide that through the appeal and the exemption process, which is not to say that the public doesn't have an interest in the registry, but strictly speaking, due process concerns are not for the public to hold that hearing. If council has questions about the ordinance or other particular items they'd like addressed, I'd be happy to do that.
Questions for Attorney Simonton?
I guess just to reconfirm what you're saying. So you're saying that both the current ordinance and this ordinance don't really have a public portion to them. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
A public opportunity for response.
That's right.
Other questions for Attorney Simonton or a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion?
The initial vacant structure code that was passed in 2017, is that correct?
That sounds right.
Okay. And essentially what we're trying to do here, I guess, just to explain what we're trying to do, is make it so that hearings that we have sat on for years that have involved people who are coming to us and saying, I'm trying to think of the most recent example. We've had people who have paid the vacant structure fine for years. They're asking for an exemption for this year because they're moving in a week. And so then they have to show up to a hearing. I think what sparked this was that specific instance where the vacant structure code had been levied against their property, or the vacant structure fine had been levied against their property for some time, but they were asking for an exemption for this year because they were literally moving in, and it was just a matter of timing that they ended up with another fine. I'm not sure if, you know, I don't know. I guess that we could make an argument one way or another for holding these meetings in public. But I think, like, as a matter of course, it's vacant structures. Those structures are on a registry that's publicly available. Is that correct?
No, I don't think so.
It's certainly a public record. I don't know if the city publishes it proactively.
We could do that. I think that'd be helpful.
I've asked about that in the past and was told that there was concern about making, like, publicizing which properties did not have someone currently living in them, like safety and
Sure.
security issues, but,
I think Philadelphia does it, so.
well, just telling you what I was told when I
Right,
asked.
but I just mean if they can do it, then I think we'll. But, yeah,
Because we're always told to report the vacant structures that we know about in our neighborhoods, and I was like, maybe someone's reported this 30 times, is it already on the list? And
well, that's
no,
true.
you can't see the list.
But also, like, if a majority of someone's properties are vacant, that might be of the public, in the public's interest, but.
I agree. And council still has the ability to request a
Hearing
hearing
at any
if
time.
we have a disagreement with staff recommendation.
Absolutely. As does the
Property
applicant.
owners have the.
Yeah, they have the same, yeah.
Our decision, yeah.
Many of these have seemed to be kind of administrative in nature, and I think that might be part of what's driving this, is just if it's
Yeah.
if there doesn't seem to be a real reason to have a hearing because it's pretty much an administrative type of decision, it doesn't merit all of the trappings of a hearing. So,
Any other discussion?
Brian, thank you for that description, and I appreciate this discussion on this matter.
and thank you for asking for it to come off of the agenda because I think it needed a little more.
Clerk?
Yes. Jody Hollingshead,
Yes.
Weezy Michael,
Yes.
Jenny Celine,
Yes.
Mark Downs,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Butcher,
Yes.
Mayor Trumbull.
Yes, passes 6-0. We will now take up original item C from the consent agenda, consideration of approval of a resolution to accept a general revenue grant from the State of West Virginia Division of Multimodal Transportation Facilities for the maintenance of the terminal building at the Morgantown Municipal Airport.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution accepting a grant. As mentioned, it's through the West Virginia Division of Multimodal Transportation and Facilities. Staff is consistently looking for grant opportunities in order to fund projects that are needed within all of our departments. Some of them are large and some of them are small, but we believe that a lot of them are worth the effort. So this is one we were excited to secure. It is in the amount of $30,000. It is a reimbursable grant, which means we will have to spend the funds and then submit for reimbursement. But this will go towards some of the terminal building maintenance and repairs that we need. Specifically, we're looking to address some of the recarpeting that needs done in the airport terminal.
Thank you. Just wanted to highlight something positive going on at the
Yes.
airport. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, we're very excited.
And I'd love to move to approve unless somebody else has a question.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Clerk?
Yes. Jody Hollingshead,
Yes.
Weezy Michael,
Yes.
Jenny Celine,
Yes.
Mark Downs,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Butcher,
Yes.
Mayor Trumbull.
Yes, passes 6-0. We now have our original new business agenda. Item A, consideration of approval of first reading of an ordinance establishing the Morgantown Mosaic Neighborhood Pride, not Pride, Engagement Initiative.
Don't say that.
Councilor Hollingshead, do you care to explain?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And first of all, I just want to thank Mark and staff for all the hard work they've put in on this ordinance. I think it's exciting and is going to provide a lot of engagement. I wanted to start really quickly with a quote that means a lot to me and is why, one of the reasons I ran for City Council. It's start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And I believe that this Mosaic program perfectly embodies this quote. It encourages and empowers community members to make the change that they'd like to see in their neighborhoods, in their communities. This initiative is designed to strengthen our neighborhoods through inclusive engagement, resident leadership, and community identity. And while the primary outcome is increased civic engagement, community building, I believe this program's positive impact will have a notable ripple effect. Strengthening our connections amongst neighbors and to our neighborhood builds an emotional investment in our communities. That emotional investment then promotes involvement and action, which then engages our citizens at a deeper level to help solve problems and generate new ideas for everyone. A few things I'd like to highlight in the ordinance. We have designed it so that underserved communities will be given priority. Again, I wanted to note the emotional investment in the neighborhoods, therefore the city. Building civic trust and participation through partnership with neighbors themselves, amongst neighbors themselves and neighbors with the city. Strengthens neighborhood identities. It's no secret that Morgantown is home to lots of unique neighborhoods, and they all have their own personalities. And I believe this program is going to highlight that and help neighbors take ownership of that. It encourages resident-led problem solving, develops future community leaders and hopefully activists. And finally, it institutionalizes neighborhood engagement. It provides a framework for tangible, actionable ways to create change in our neighborhoods. If Jamie would like to add some of the details on the process, that would be great.
Sure, thank you, Councilor Hollingshead. Appreciate the great overview of why this program is important. It was originally presented at the September 2025 Committee of the Whole. This will be a micro grant program where we will push out where people can apply for initiatives they'd like to see move forward in their neighborhood. It will then go through a process where it is reviewed by staff for things of functional nature. Are we in the right of way? Are there things that we need to address as far as line of sight concerns? Some of those practical assessments that we will provide some guidance on. And then it will route to the Neighborhood Coordinating Council in order to do a ranking and assessment. This was presented at the Neighborhood Coordinating Council meeting last night. I did feel that there was overall a lot of positive feedback from that group and some excitement from that group to be involved in this process. So I was very excited to see that. From there, the Neighborhood Coordinating Council will create a ranked list of the projects which will be submitted to administration for award. We will, through the budget process, set an amount that will be designated for this program every year. Just two items that I'd like to highlight or call out from the original presentation at the September Committee of the Whole is there is a slight name change to the program, which does drop the word pride at the recommendation of multiple people who are interested in the program. So thank you for that. And we did make some changes to make the reporting and evaluation a little bit less specific when it came to the timeline of when staff brought forward a report. And the reason behind that is we've had some additional conversation related to, does the budget get set and then the call for projects occur, or do we do the call for projects, set the budget, and move forward? And so since these are smaller projects and programs, we were a little concerned about the timeline gap between a call for project and when the funds would actually be made available, because our budget setting process can be a little bit extended. So this was originally drafted with the idea that the call for projects would be done before the budget was created. We've just loosened the language a little bit, which will allow us the flexibility to maybe try both approaches and see which one works best for the program. So those are really the two main items that have been amended in the ordinance from the last time this was presented. There has been some revisions to the program guide based on feedback that we've received, and thank you all for that feedback as that's come in individually. But one of the major is the way we did some of the ratings for the project, try to define that a little bit better. And so that the program guide is a working document. We will certainly publish it every year, and when we publish it for the year, that will be how that program is executed. But we will take lessons learned each year to try to build on and make the program better. So we may see some further revisions as the program goes past its first pilot year. But I think staff is engaged and excited, and I think the opportunity for Councilor Downs and Councilor Hollingshead and everybody who engaged on this with the back and forth dialogue on staff.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you.
We should provide that.
Further discussion? You can call the roll.
Jody Hollingshead.
Yes.
Weezy Michael.
Yes.
Jenny Celine.
Yes.
Mark Downs.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Butcher.
Yes.
Mayor Trumbull.
Yes, passes 6-0. Our only other item of new,
If you don't mind, we had a technical difficulty and we're going to swap Zoom meetings before it ends. So we can take a 1 minute tech hiatus and I will get them so they don't miss anything.
can you play like
So we use it
Jeopardy
to put
music
on
or
the
something
link,
while
we'll
we-
get you right on.
Do.
You would think 5 years after a pandemic, we would figure it out.
Told you it was yelling at us back there.
I've got premium Zoom if you need it.
Can use
I
my
think there's just
personal
been
account.
an incorrect change in how we've been setting up.
Yeah, it looked like they were just scheduled for 40 minutes. I think. It did ask me if I wanted to upgrade.
Right.
Mayor, as you were.
Technical difficulties. Can you all hear us again now?
Yeah. Okay.
Great. We will move on to item B of new business, discussion item, legislative priorities.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to provide a brief presentation as we start to prepare and head into the legislative season. This legislative session is scheduled at the state level to begin on January 12th this upcoming year. And as part of that, this discussion is focused on state legislation and discussions related to that. We have invited our state delegates to join us on Tuesday, December 16th. To share our priorities with them. So the intent of this is to get ahead of the process a little bit and share with council some of the item that staff has identified that may be of interest as we talk with our state delegates. It would be my recommendation, and staff would recommend that it's important that we identify a couple of priorities to try to stay focused on when we have them here present. But we certainly want to be prepared with other items that we are educated and we have a point of view on that we are ready to share with them if it comes up. But sometimes we may have other partners that are leading those initiatives. So what staff has done today is provide 2 or 3 priorities that we feel kind of raised to the top when we started to look at a couple of things, but identified a couple of other items that are out there. Wanted to have an initial discussion about our legislative priorities so that we can work to prepare a public document for our state delegates when they get here. This does not mean it will be exhaustive. Certainly as the process unfolds at the state every year, we find ourselves not only advocating for legislative items, but responding to sometimes legislative items that are put forward as well. So this is not necessarily a concrete list. We just want to provide council an opportunity to provide any feedback or any direction of things that they would like to see or areas that they would like us to focus a little bit further on as we try to put together a good takeaway document for our state delegates. So if it would be the pleasure of the council, I would like to just run down a very high-level overview of some of these major items that we have identified. The first one that staff would recommend that we consider a priority is working with the state and the Division of Highways to continue to look for creative ways to address state road maintenance concerns. And I believe that we can look at a couple of alternatives there, so we are not set that there is one way forward on how we accomplish that. I think staff has had a lot of discussion of can we create some type of pilot program that maybe the state can look at if it's successful with other communities, but where we do a more cohesive local maintenance agreement program where we take on maybe a little bit more of the maintenance locally and looking at how could that funding flow. We also, some other things we may want to talk about, but it may not make it through in a first legislative season here, is looking at truck weight limits and how they impact our local community, local fuel tax, and if not a partnership agreement, potentially looking at some of the state maintained roads and are there some of the roads that would make more sense to be local roads. And so really in the spirit of collaboration of how can we work with the state to make sure our roads and highways are maintained and provide that quality of life for our community. The second item that staff recommends that we identify as one of our key priorities for the delegates this year is to clarify procedures and contingencies related to the election date changes. And so we do find that there is a process related to how charter change occurs and how that would be required to be voted on. So when the state is giving us direction on things we have to change versus how a charter process change goes forward, seeking some additional clarification from the state on how they would like to navigate those challenges if needed. So those are the 2 main items that staff would recommend rise to the top of the priority list, but there is some additional secondary priorities or items we would encourage us to continue to work with other agencies or continue to be prepared to discuss with our delegates. One is the municipal airport funding. Certainly this is an absolute priority project for us. The only reason it is on the list of secondary project priorities at this time is we are having discussion at this time about state legislative priorities, and we do know that that's more of a federal avenue that we advocate. But we do receive some matching grants from the state, so we want to be very thankful about all of the partnerships we do receive, but wanting to make sure we're staying a little focused. Traffic cameras for moving violations. This is an item that was on our list last year as well for some consideration, which will allow for the use of camera enforcement for high-risk areas. Is it what we would advocate? Another item that we've identified that we would like to have some discussion is related to the civil service hiring processes. Certainly with our civil service department, There are some, hiring people in general in the world, the way we hire, the way we move, and the need to be more agile and respond quickly is extremely important in order to fill difficult positions. So as we look for those roles, we know those can be very challenging roles to fill. So we would like to have some discussion with the state. Are there changes that we can provide a little bit more modernization in the hiring process on the civil service positions? We do understand the combined sewer concerns that we have to separate the combined sewers. Certainly any financial support or any type of support from the state level for funding for that it would be great if identified. We understand that everybody is always challenged with limited resources, but that is an item that we would love to see a pot of funds be available to continue to push projects like that forward. Another item, we're looking for some potential consideration of efficiencies when it comes to our bidding processes. Specifically identified is the process related to construction managers at risk. That is a pretty well-utilized program that across different states, and currently the way it is allocated is we can use it for projects over $20 million. Well, we do not execute a lot of projects at that level, so we would like to request that the state look at what that threshold level is in order to provide us that opportunity to use a CMAR. Other items of note we would have is we want to constantly be an advocate for the home rule program. We understand at the state level that may not always be received is open arms, but we do believe that local rules are best set locally, and that we are here to serve our community. So anything that we can do to make sure that we are strengthening home rule and providing flexibility for municipalities, I think is something that maybe we don't lead with, but we look for continued support on. We do have the current state building code is set to expire, and if that's not renewed, there is some concerns and challenges for how we can move forward related to the state building code. So those are items that, again, we probably will not lead that one. We'll look for partners in order to make sure that we're trying to speak with one voice at the state level of the impact of being able to ensure that we have state building codes that protect the life safety and the physical assets of our community. We certainly want to always look for ways to support small business support, so any type of grant opportunity program that can be established at the state level, I believe that we would support those initiatives, as well as any type of grant opportunities or creation of a state housing trust or anything to support the further initiative of affordable housing in our community is something that we would support as well. So that is certainly not an exhaustive list, but from a staff perspective, and thank you to Emily, who really, we've been talking a lot. At this time of year, we bring up a lot of topics and we go, oh, we should put that on our legislative support, and Ryan as well has been tremendous, but keeping track of every time we say that and bringing something together was very helpful. So thank you for all of that work on that. But we open it up if there is any discussion or guidance that you all would like to see if you do not support any of these items as being on our list of potential items of interest, or if there's anything that you'd like to see added as well.
And this was certainly a high-level overview. If we can certainly discuss here, if you want to take more time and look it over and share comments or concerns specifically with the managers, that is perfectly acceptable. We have a few months before we're meeting with our state representatives, but just wanted a brief introduction. Looks like you have some comments.
The state road maintenance and the election date mandate seem like excellent top priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about my fellow council people here or those who are online, but those seem like clear items that could be further developed if they need further development or used as is. And then the secondary priorities are tricky. And as you mentioned, some of them would be more effective or most effective if we could get the municipal league or just groups of fellow cities to sign on with those. And maybe one of the ways to think about which ones we could select is to speak with other cities and see where we have commonalities with them to see, or with the municipal league to see where, to choose which ones for this year. If something doesn't get on the priority list for this year, it can always be on another year. Because it seems to take a little bit to get items through. And so just by publishing this list, you can imagine that it's spread around a little bit, and we can use this list to approach other communities and the municipal league to see where they think there might be some agreement, because the trick is to get movement on any of these for effectiveness. So anyway, that's my comment, but I wrote something for each one, and I'm sure the rest of you have comments too, and they all, have some merit. It's just which ones we think we could get a little forward momentum on, and which ones are the most important to all of us.
The delegates may have some input on what they think we can get some movement on also.
Well, actually, I thought of that first, and then I thought, from our perspective, it would be nice to not only get our delegates, but to get some of our other communities of similar size, other communities that are active in the municipal league, other communities that are in our part of the state, and just see who, I just don't know, for instance, something like the state building code where it has not been adopted. I mean, is that something that is truly in danger of happening? I'm sure if it happens, it will be a little mini disaster, but maybe it's something that will happen on its own, and I'm sure that there are people who could kind of help us to figure out whether that's something important that we need to take up, or whether that's something that will, maybe somebody knows how we can get that done another way. Pardon?
It may be very likely to come up.
Already without us. So, yeah, so we should just choose carefully and just choose a few, and I'm good. We can pass on to the next person.
Mark or Weeze, do you have any comments on the brief overview?
I'm good. There are some things on the list and some things not on the list that I would appreciate a dialogue with council on, and a dialogue with the rest of council on, with respect to the legal opportunities or constraints that exist on some of these items. So
Sure.
At some point in the future, I would appreciate, having an occasion to engage in that discussion.
Do we know, Ryan, you may know the answer to this question, I don't know why you would, how many cities in West Virginia have combined sewer and water utilities?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know offhand, but I could dig a little bit and report back to council.
We can't be the only.
I think, and I know I have a little bit of insight into that because of my service on the MUB board. I think there are less than a couple of hundred remaining in the whole country.
Whoa! Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It was It was an astonishingly low number that are still in operation.
Interesting.
And ours is 100 years old.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's hard to, it's hard to build, it's hard to process all that water.
Oh, for sure.
When it is more properly separated. And it takes a lot of money and power to do all that work when it is very expensive and time consuming to separate it. And I know that MUB started it at one point, but it seems like it's sometime soon time to get started on separating it.
Well, some larger effort, right, put into making sure it happens, or at least that there's progress.
Just getting started.
Progress consistently every year to lessen it, at least, would be good. So our river smells better.
Yeah,
I
go take
mentioned that I'm
a look at
personally
Deckers
doing
Creek
that at
even
my
when it's
house.
dry.
You're doing that at your house.
No, I mean, that's,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
it starts at
I
the
know what
house,
you mean.
it starts at the house level, and mine is combined right now, and in November, I'm gonna work on separating it and getting the stormwater out to the stormwater system instead of flushing it.
Thank you, Jenny.
Maybe Jamie, can you explain a little bit more what the goal is and the limitations are around this bidding process difficulty?
We're looking at, and Ryan, feel free to step in here, but we are, we just, with the level of $20 million, we are really not able to use that process in a construction manager at risk. Yeah, it's usually used in order to make sure that your projects are executed on time and budget and done in a manner that the transfer of liability goes to the manager at risk. So it is a well supported for your large construction projects is when you will see it, and we don't do a whole lot of those, but 20 million is very big for us. So I probably cannot share the last time we did a $20 million project.
Right, but I guess just like, what's the difference between that and how we normally complete
It's
projects?
the transfer of the liability of risk to the construction manager.
Yeah, rather than the
versus
city
us.
whenever there's,
Yeah.
So if there are change orders, the construction manager would bear that cost, and they're on site making sure that the contractor does the work efficiently to try to manage that, right?
They're in
So the
charge of
city
on
gets
budget,
it.
on time, right?
An all-in cost that way.
okay.
And I would say, I mean, to your question, the design bid build is the traditional procurement method for public projects, but there are a lot of other methods, and they are commonly an option in other places, and they're pretty limited options here. We do have a design build procedure, but it requires approval at a state level board. This construction manager at risk option was just added in last year's legislation. One version of the bill had a $5 million limit, and when passed, it was increased to $20 million. So something that might be more attainable for cities to look at could be helpful for us as an option for certain project deliveries.
Okay. This doesn't bypass the bidding process, though?
It does not.
Okay, that was my concern. Okay.
Yeah, it really depends on the type of project. So some projects are a lot more geared towards the design bid build. So when you're renovating a building like City Hall, you typically would have an architect come in, you know, they work on the design, and then you put together the bid package and put it out. But certain projects that either have a lot of unknowns or are a lot more specialized, so things like pump tracks or swimming pools or playgrounds, those type of things sometimes do a little bit better, where you're just shifting a little bit more of that to the contractor as opposed to doing your traditional design bid build.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to encourage us, Jenny, I appreciate you highlighting the need to be diplomatic about our effort and have a unified voice and prioritize our priorities. I also want to encourage us to push the envelope just a little bit. So in these conversations that we'll have between now and the meeting with the legislators, I would encourage us to, maybe choose something that that is shooting for the moon, so to speak, that is really important to us and to Morgantown. Because why not? What are we here for?
So that would be the housing item, probably. And I think we certainly
Exactly.
could feel free to have an item on there that is shooting the moon.
Yeah, right?
Fine.
I appreciate that.
I would not put several items on to shoot the moon because we won't get there, and we would need to make sure that whatever item we choose to do that with, that we have other, 3 or 4 other cities that would like that too, because we're more likely to at least have that attempt start now, and maybe it'll be 3 or 4 years before we'll get it. I mean, we expect it this year, but if we don't get it this year, we would have to push it other years to get it eventually, someday, hopefully.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's good to shoot for what you actually want, but if we do a whole bunch like that, we won't be.
Of course,
so.
yeah. Hence
Yep.
my choosing one, absolutely.
Or 2 or whatever, but not 8.
So we'll certainly have other discussions about this leading up. Those can be small discussions, large discussions. In the meantime, if you have any other priorities that you would like to see the city consider, certainly send those to Jamie and Emily and Ryan, and we'll keep honing the list. City managers report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Not a whole lot to report tonight. As a reminder, next week is the City Managers Conference, so will not be present for the Committee of the Whole meeting. The partnership, along the similar lines, will be discussing their legislative priorities next Thursday at 9 a.m. At the Hope Guest Auditorium. So that has been shared as well. I think that's always a good place for us to look. Is how can we share a voice with others in the region, not only other cities in the state, but our local partners. So I've shared their first draft of their legislative priorities as well, and encourage you all to take a look at those as we continue to draft our final list. Last item to briefly update you all is related to the warming shelter. Have continued to have conversations and try to stay in communication as much as possible to watch that process move forward. Catholic Charities has indicated that they had a meeting last week, and they have another meeting on Thursday with the Coalition to End Homelessness. So we will receive any additional information at this point. We continue to offer our support and full guidance of how we need to move this along and make sure it gets executed. They've been great partners. There haven't been any further requests for additional needed support at this time, but we are standing by and we are ready to help in any way. We are still working through some of the challenges related to transportation. Mountain Line's unable at this point just to dedicate to going to the West Run facility. But one of the items that Catholic Charities and the Coalition are going to be talking about on Thursday is, are there other resources available, other programs that we can be looking at in the social services realm that may be an alternative form of transportation that could provide that potential solution. So trying to think a little bit outside the box, if not the Mountain Line, what other things can we do to help close that gap? But knowing that that is still a challenge, and Mayor, I hope I don't overstep, but the mayor is still engaged in having conversations with the MCR board to say, let's make sure we're still engaged in that dialogue of what that day room program would look like and how that would be appropriately staffed if there was a need to transition back to Hazel's House of Hope. So appreciate that it continues to move forward, and we'll continue to provide updates as I have more information.
Great, thank you. Report from the clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to share that today we wrapped up Municipal Government Week, just a couple days late, but we did that, and we honored the employee with the most years of service, and that was Rick Whistler from the Parking Authority, and he has served our city for 34 years, so congratulations to Rick Whistler and his dedication to our city. I know that, I believe that our communications department is, they're sending photos and our activities and things that we have done this past week to the Municipal League. So I'm anxious to see what they're doing with that. So I guess we'll see maybe next year when we all gather together again for the Midwinter Conference. So I also want to share that the Police Civil Service Commission held their entry-level police officer exam on Saturday, October 18th, and 4 applicants passed the agility and written exam and will be moving forward into the process. The Police Civil Service Commission will meet this week to set dates for the spring and summer 2026 exam. And then lastly, we all welcomed 5 new firefighters. We swore them in today, and their names are Mitchell Breakiron, Dallas Kokoska, Aiden Petrakovich, David Ross Jr., and Caleb Vernon. So we just want to wish the 5 new recruits their very best of their career, and congratulations. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. City Attorney report.
Thank you, Mayor. The council members had requested at the last meeting a process to revive abandoned non-conforming uses, particularly residential uses in areas where they had formerly provided housing. We should have a draft available for council's review at your upcoming committee of the whole meeting. That is something that the Planning Commission would advise on under state enabling legislation. So it's in a form where council will be able to discuss that and then refer it to the Planning Commission for a look and potentially come back to council in the future. I do not have anything else to report this evening.
With a public hearing on the Planning Commission for this.
There will be a public hearing before the Planning Commission and before City Council adopts any ordinance making a change.
Important note to bring up tonight. Report. Thunder? Report from council members. Weeze, do you have anything to report this evening?
No, I'm good, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for making yourself available while you're tending to family. Councilor Downs?
I'll keep it short. I just want to express my appreciation to everyone involved with passage on first reading of the Morgantown Mosaic Program. It's been a lot of fun and quite a learning process to this point. And to highlight former Mayor Schamberger's comments about community and recognizing the community coming together community this past weekend at the No Kings protest. I think that's kind of in the same spirit as the Morgantown Mosaic program came together with. There was a quote that I came across that on social media, and it was, if you want to change the country, start with your corner of it. And that really resonated with me in light of us taking up this policy. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Hollingshead?
I'll keep it short because I guess we only have
We only
10
have
more minutes.
9 minutes left.
Thanks again so much for everyone who worked so hard on Municipal Week, Municipal Government Week. Everything was so fun. I attended the mock student council or mock city council meeting with MHS students, and it was so much fun. And I also spoke with a group of WVU students last week at the Center for Community Engagement and about the importance of local elections. And having those two experiences as well as the safety walk that several of us did really encouraged me to think about ways we can involve our students, both high school, secondary, and WVU students, or college level continuing education students in municipal government. They've got great ideas, and they're motivated, and so I've been ruminating on that. And then the last thing, just a couple calendar items. Mutual Aid will be tabling at the Mountain Lair this Thursday, 11 to 2, for harm reduction items if you need to restock. And then SPAN has our next meeting next Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the First Christian Church.
We know which church
Got it
now.
this time. That's all I have.
Counselor Sling?
All right. I'm hoping that you can fill in one of my items.
Oh,
All right, the first item has to do with pie. Not pie like the number pie, pie like actual eating pie. So at Turtle Park on Saturday, November 1st, from 3 to 4:30, there is a Mingle kid-friendly activities pie making contest. Bring your store-bought or homemade, preferably homemade, but you know, if you want to participate, or just yourself, vote on the best neighborhood homemade pies. This is an Ace Parsi item, and he has done it before, and it is super fun, and anyone who wants to come, particularly those in the Suncrest neighborhood, but also anyone here and members of the public. So it's the Neighborhood Fall Mingle. And it's in Turtle Park, which if you don't know Turtle Park, it's also called Suncrest Mini Park on maps. And it is just off of Collinsview Road, out in the 7th Ward. I very much appreciated the mock city council meeting also, and the Morgantown High students, and the work of our city clerk and our assistant city clerk, and First Ward Councilor Joel Bagano, who has done this before, and this is a nice feature of the week. The question I have for you is, the ice rink has their first open skate tomorrow. Do you know what time?
The first one is at noon,
Noon, that's what I thought.
and then there's also an evening open.
There we go. So
public
tomorrow,
skate.
we're talking about the ice rink, the Morgantown ice rink, and the ice rink that is in White Park. So anyway, I will be at one of those with my skates, and I welcome anyone else who would like to come, because that will be a positive, wonderful experience, and you will not believe how well it has been renovated. It is
Noon
gorgeous.
to 2:15 and 6 to 8 p.m., which is 18 and over adults night.
Ooh. All right, you have
But also
options.
Friday 7 to 9 if you want to evening skate with your children.
Any and all, please come and skate, because it's been renovated and it is gorgeous. It has kind of a sparkly counter and beautiful flooring, and it still has a fireplace, and it just, the boards are new, the ceiling's new, all the cooling and the dehumidification is new. There's a special room for the Zamboni, so it doesn't have to go outside. So the ice
That's
used to
very
go
important.
outside, and
Don't
it would
laugh,
bring in
everyone.
dirt in to the rink. So now we will have lovely, pristine ice, and all for a good price.
I'm told the Zamboni room is going to be like a clean room. It's going
It
to be
is.
the
It's gorgeous.
eat off the floor kind of
It's
place.
gorgeous. So anyway, just mention that everyone should go check out the ice rink. Also, the food service is the same food service from Wells Hill Community Centers, and same food service that you had at the swimming pool in the summer. So
That's cool.
should be wonderful.
Bow Park Bites.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. A couple of events I wanted to mention. On the 23rd at 2 p.m., I'm trying to figure, student government is doing a canoe cleanup of the Mon River. They're going out in canoes and cleaning the river, which is very brave. Jenny will be there, I'm sure.
She should be.
They'll be meeting at 10 Walnut Street at 2 p.m.
You're going to be at the reservoir.
I know. I was just thinking that.
She would have more fun at this stuff. And then on October 23rd in Brooks Hall at 7 p.m., Morgan King from West Virginia Citizen Action Group will be there doing a talk about the AI data center that's being proposed in Tucker County. I know that's not Morgantown, but I know a lot of us like to go to Davis and Thomas to vacation, so I would prefer there not be a giant data center there. And then on the 26th, the Sunday at 5:30, we have our regular mutual aid, Morgantown Mutual Aid meeting at that time. But this one will be specifically a introduction to mutual aid, what it means, what it is, how you can get involved. That's what the entire meeting's about. So it's not any of the planning or more boring stuff. So if you'd like to come and learn more about what that group does, then you can do that there. In terms of just general updates, I did get a chance to talk to Mark Phillips. I think that I think it's worth trying to figure out if Mountain Line has. They did at one time have smaller transit vehicles that they used, and I believe they still have them, like the vans, things of that nature. And there seems to be a source of funding that could be used for transportation from Celtic Charities, in speaking with Mark. So if we could get an MOU between those two,
Nice.
to use those vans possibly, because I know the buses were a problem in that parking lot, that could be one solution. Not that we write the MOU or anything, I'm just saying they might do that. The other thing I would say is that I've worked a little bit with Councilor Downs on the committee structure that we brought up before, with kind of a three-committee structure. I think, love to have more conversations with individual councilors about the committee structure, but also I think in tandem with that, we can change our committee of the whole. And it'd be cool if we could try to schedule out at least a little bit for a committee of the whole, if as Emily had suggested, sort of having subject areas, but like we have these general subject areas that might come up at a meeting that are scheduled pretty far in advance, like we do city council meetings. I think there's general topics that we know we're going to want to have legislation or concerns discussed about, like just infrastructure or, stuff like that, that we could at least put on there and then maybe have for the committee of the whole, if we did want to have legislative priorities come up, that those would come up in agenda meetings, but these like general ideas come up long in advance and kind of a schedule, sort of like our regular city council calendar does anyway. We lost the other two. Oh my gosh. I think that was it though. I just talked too long and then we lost them. That's all I had. So thank you.
I guess they'll have to watch the recording of my
Yeah,
report.
they can just turn it on YouTube.
I have one more.
Oh, yeah. Jenny has another.
So,
Oh,
I
yeah.
forgot this one. So, Sunday, October 26th, so I believe that's this coming Sunday, there is a water witch paddle from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock when you talked about water activities. I was like, oh, yes. So you can bring your own kayak,
Your own witch.
or canoe, or paddleboard, or you can rent them from the Morgantown Adventure Outfitters for $20 for 3 hours. You meet at the Walnut Street Landing at 3 o'clock on October 26th on Sunday, and come dressed to haunt. And this is sponsored by the Morgantown Area Paddlers, the Fairmont Flotilla, and Mon Valley Green Space Coalition, as well as, I believe, some of the university groups are joining in. So there it is, and come dressed to haunt this coming Sunday. I'm likely to be a witch.
Means you're not a witch.
All right.
Means you're not.
As City Manager Miller mentioned, since our last council meeting, I've had a few different MCR meetings concerning the warming shelter and possible location at Hazel's House of Hope. Despite the fact that Catholic Charities has indicated a preference to operate the shelter at West Run, Morgantown Community Resources did vote to serve as the backup location. So should that backup location be needed, the path is paved for that. And as of our usual board meeting, that was during a special meeting, we had our regular monthly board meeting yesterday, and I gave an update about transportation issues and things like that. So as Jamie said, the chair of MCR has indicated that they are going to start opening conversations about organizing volunteers for the day room if needed, so that we're not trying to start that conversation too late when it's already needed, as kind of happened last year. So that is the update on that, and I hope that we hear more from Catholic Charities after they meet with the coalition again later this week, but it does seem like one way or another, Catholic Charities will be doing it, one place or another, whether that's West Run or H3. I also made a note to express appreciation to Clerk Wade for all of the Municipal Government Week activities, though a lot of other folks were involved in those too. Our communications department recorded a lot of us reading books, and Christine did a lot of employee appreciation. Our parking authority employee this morning seemed very surprised that he was now the employee with the longest tenure. So it was a fun little surprise to pop into his office and share that news this morning. And yeah, the mock city council meeting is always fun for a lot of us here. It's great to turn around and be on the other side of the podium again. Took a few phone calls during the meeting. It was a thing. I did attend not only the firefighter swearing in this morning, but I'm pretty sure since our last council meeting, we also swore in another police officer who came to us already certified from a county sheriff in the center of the state. So we're excited to have him as well as 5 new firefighters. Just like Councilor Halling said, I've attended a couple of student government events. I attended the regular Student Government Association meeting last week, introduced myself to that group, talked to some of the folks, and we're working to set up a listening session later this fall. So I will certainly let any council people who are interested in attending that know when I get that set up with the current president of the WVU SGA. I think the only other thing I need to mention is the Woodburn Association of Neighbors was supposed to meet last week, but due to timing of Neighborhood Coordinating Council that happened last night and some anticipated updates on East End Village, we have chosen to postpone that meeting to Wednesday, November 12th at 7 o'clock at the Woodburn Community Complex. And the Jerome Park Neighborhood Association will also be meeting on Monday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. at the church there in Jerome Park. I think that's the only things that I have. Anything? You have more stuff, or are you gonna adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. We will be adjourned.